Thank you very much. I'm not going to steal a lot of time from our guests today, so I'm just going to do a quick introduction. You already know me. I was here yesterday, so nothing new about that. We're just finishing the event by kind of explaining what is actually happening locally in the market here. We've been talking about RCS and omnichannel and everything from a global perspective, but now centering around the UK, what's happening in the UK and how we're enabling these new multimedia channels to add to the omnichannel proposal. We have three experts in the industry that have been dealing with messaging for a long time. I'm going to start from the edge here with Catherine Maguire. She's the product manager at BT. She's in charge of messaging. We also have Neil Roberts from Vodafone. He's the cargo head, A2P wholesale services. I think I got that right. And then we also have Clark Johnson representing Virgin Media O2. He's the head of commerce products. So I'm going to pass the baton to Catherine. She's going to present some slides that the carrier delegates put together. They're going to present a couple of use cases, and then I'll come back here to moderate the Q&A session. Thank you, guys. Catherine?
Thanks. Is this screen work? Oh, yeah, sorry.
I'm going to do the full thing. You're the star.
Hi, everyone. Seems we've got the graveyard shift, but we've got some important information to give, so we won't stand too long between you and I think this is the penultimate session, and then I think there's going to be a couple of drinks, so bear with us, and we'll give you some key facts on the UK market. So this panel system stems from some collaborative work we've been doing collectively. Three send their apologies today, but they're very much on board with the work we've been doing with the GSMA to sort of gather information and knowledge on all of which the UK operators are doing in the RCS market. So I just wanted to start with sort of a scene setter on just globally where RCS is and RBM, and thank you to Google for providing these stats, but you can see there that RCS is P2P is fully live recently, mostly internationally, and there are billions of messages being sent in a year. RBM is coming behind that, and that's something we want to really try and scale out in the UK. Some of the work that we've been doing in the GSMA forum is sort of looking further afield to other markets where we've had some success, where RBM's had real success, and trying to learn from them, and that is why we're all working together to try and make the UK market a success in terms of RBM. And at the moment, one of the things that we're doing within this GSMA forum is sort of providing our RCS users in the UK collectively, so we get a really good picture of where we are. So we have almost 15 million UK-wide provisioned users, which accounts for about 25% of the smartphone base, which, as we'll come to talk in the panel, really accounts for a really significant digital marketing campaign for any RBM campaign in the UK, and that's only set to grow as the year goes on. So the GSMA, the GSMA forum kicked off in September, about a week after I started in BT. It's probably not a coincidence that I did work at GSMA for 7 years before that, so I pulled a few, well, Robert actually started it before me, but we pulled a few favours into GSMA just to make sure that they were there to sort of provide a keen eye on any sort of antitrust issues that would come up as we collaborate in the UK market. And what we want to try and do is collaborate on aligning business models. As I'm sure has come up in the last couple of days, there is quite a lot of disparity across the operators in terms of the business models that we provide, and although we can't fix everything overnight, what we want to do is make it as simple for the message community as possible to onboard an RCS campaign and have a very, very simple commercial model or business model that is easy to explain to brands that you might want to sell RCS into, and that's really where we want to go, and we're going to be doing a sort of iterative approach to that, where we make changes and then just keep looking at it and seeing how we can improve that. And hopefully that will mean that when brands come to look at things like WhatsApp business messaging, they don't say, okay, this is a really simple pricing model, but RCS is really complicated, and hopefully we can become a real competitor in the market. We've also looked at blockers for RCS and go-to-market, and we collaborated with our aggregator partners who came to speak at the GSMA forum, and they provided some insights. And as a result of that, we've all agreed to collaborate on an onboarding document and maximum SLR for brand onboarding. So I sort of did a bit of a investigative piece of work to see how many steps it would take to onboard an RCS campaign, and I think it came to about 70 for any brand campaign across all 4 operators. So obviously there's going to be a lot of crossover there. So hopefully we can get a document where it's a bit simpler for aggregator partners to unbrand an RCS campaign. And again, that's just the first step, and what we hope will be a really interactive group, drawing on successes that have happened in other geographies to onboard RCS campaigns quicker. And again, as I mentioned before, we've agreed to sort of share information on where we are with RCS, case studies, the Android base, etc., and just work collectively to learn from other operators and further afield, and really just show that the UK market is behind RCS and it's something we want to make a success working together rather than as competitors. So the hot tech for today, for the aggregators that are left in the room, but maybe they've got some on the line too, is that what we've sort of learned from the French market, and they've had some success with RCS campaign ideas, and what we'd like to do as part of our GSMA group or another forum is invite you as aggregator partners to pitch to us collectively for an RCS campaign in early 2022. And the best idea that we like the most collectively as operators, and we'll try our best to agree on that, but you know, could be difficult. But we'll take it to a democratic vote. We will provide a free campaign and full M&O support with execution, and there will be obviously PR and a case study surrounding that. And I think it'll be a really good way to just ignite support and just show the messaging ecosystem and beyond that RCS is a real contender as a technology for brand campaigns in the UK market. So we all have a bit of a case study to talk about, and I just wanted to bring, I know that my colleague Robert spoke about a Samsung upgrade campaign that had a 5 times higher click-through rate, or conversion rate, sorry, than the SMS campaign that they had in the market, and I just wanted to talk about another one that we're doing, which is a welcome journey, and this is a really good way to get our customers familiarised with RCS's features and technology, and excite them with the sort of richer, smarter messaging that RCS can provide. So we've just taken them through a 30-day welcome campaign, and we provide information on things like smart benefits, insurance deals, plans, etc., upgrades, and we've had a 33 higher % click-through rate than SMS and email. And what has come out of this is that RCS customers are more likely to claim they were made aware of benefits from their welcome journey, which obviously leads to customer retention. And for me, I think this is something that I'm going to, in my role, try and roll out more with different EE case studies, because there's lots that we can do to engage the base and make them aware of the features that RCS has, and then hopefully that will lead to campaigns with our partners in the market. So I will pass over to Clark, who has a campaign from Telefonica O2.
Evening, everybody. I would just like to share with you today what our O2 consumer marketing team have been doing with RCS recently. So one of the things that we found when we ran a bolt-on campaign with Disney is that the engagement was massive compared to email, so nearly twice as effective in terms of open rate. The response rates were 6 times as effective as email. And one of the unique things we're able to do with RCS was to give a personalised experience to our customers. So they could select a Disney film of their choice, which supported deeper insight into how the next campaign could be run, along with reply rates and click-through rates, all of these supporting improved campaigns going forward. So a really great success for us. Our marketing team's now using it much more effectively, and we'll use it as an open channel going forward. And we hope many of you use it as well. Thank you.
You want to talk about your case study?
These microphones live? It should be. Yeah. Can you all hear me? Cool. There's a red light. I didn't know if that was good or bad. So from Vodafone's perspective, we didn't do any slides because the sheer volume of RCS campaigns that the consumer division do now. We've been doing them in-house for our own products for over 3 years. I think it's fair to say Vodafone have been on the bleeding edge of the RCS revolution, and we look forward to it taking off on a wider community. But the feedback from the CVM teams were that in terms of engagement rates, they see regularly multiples of 4 and 5 times preferential outcomes over SMS, which in itself is 3 and 4 times more preferential than emails. So I think people have quoted it earlier, drinking our own champagne, although Robert referenced eating our own dog food, and I think everyone agreed there was a midpoint between those two extremes. But internally, RCS continues year after year to be an extremely effective way of communicating with our customers from our colleagues in the consumer division.
All right, are we done with the slides? That's
Yeah.
all. That was fast. Okay, let me take the stage again. Anyway, if you guys have anything else you'd like to add or any other comments you want to do, feel free to do it. I'd like to open the floor now if anybody has any specific questions for them. I also have them from my phone because I have Jenny on the line. She couldn't be here today. I'm filling in for her again. But she's checking on the online platform, and she's trying to feed us questions that are popping up in the online space. So is there anybody in the audience that wants to ask? There we go.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'd like to ask a question which I kind of asked earlier, but I appreciate you might not have been here, and you're different people. So, and that is the consumer-facing question of, does RCS need an identity and a brand, or is it just enough for Android users to discover that their default messaging platform now has all these rich elements?
Shall I go?
I don't mind.
Off you go.
Well, feel
You
free
go
to cut
first.
in, but
You go first.
I think one of the benefits of RCS is that it doesn't require any action on behalf of the customer. So for things like that require actual actions from customers to download or interact with it, a really strong brand is probably much more important. I think it would be a good thing if there was a strong brand surrounding it. You can see in other geographies, things like, for example, in Japan, it's Message Plus, and they have branded it across operators in different geographies, and it has been successful. But I don't think it's a major barrier to the success of the platform if customers start to use things like the case studies we just described internally, or and start to interact naturally, maybe through deep linking or things like chatbot directories through RCS. Having a really, really strong brand I don't think it's at the top of the list of the things that we need to fix at the present moment. That's my opinion anyway.
So in many ways I'd agree with that, because from a Vodafone customer perspective, it is the default messaging client, so there is no changing in T's and C's, there's no downloading of activities, and I think people that have an interest in the wider features discover them in a natural process, but that's more sat on the consumer side, which is not an area that I work in. So from the perspective of the application to person, business side of the messaging, I think it's long had a confused identity, but do I think that is the barrier to its wider adoption? I would personally say no, I don't think that that's the driver. And there is, I think to Catherine's point, there's more pressing issues than, I'm sure the marketing department would disagree, but than creating a brand for this opportunity. The opportunity exists, customers use the messaging client by default, and therefore brands could engage with them in that rich way now and today, and then the polishing of the name and the presentation, I think, could follow. But as a marketeer, you may have a very different view.
Not actually a marketeer, but I think I agree with all the points you made. The only extra thing I was going to say really is that I think all the operators are aligned on the name chat, which was a long and arduous kind of GSMA meeting, I think, at one stage. So I think on our websites it's aligned on chat. There isn't any logo or anything else that goes with it. And just kind of building on the points before, as an Apple user personally, when iMessage first came out, I didn't receive any real communication on what it is or what it does. It just worked, and it's the same on RCS now for our 5 million customers. It just works for them. They have to think about it. They were messaging one day, and they're now using RCS.
So if I may add, I mean, from the consumer point of view, that's what the experience is supposed to be. I mean, and for your question, if you remember from the keynote yesterday, identity is one of those kind of key factors that we mentioned we need to work on, security being another one. But I think one of the important ones is education. And you guys were presenting really good numbers. I mean, you were showing 33% higher click-through rate. You were showing 4 to 5 times better than email results, and you, Clark, were showing a 221% increase in open rates. Those are great numbers, but if they're the best kept secret, we're not going to go anywhere. What are you guys doing? What are the carriers doing to make awareness in the brands and the agencies of the potential of this channel and how they can use it?
Well, that's something that we built well, and I totally agree with you, because sometimes I think, as someone who's worked in this ecosystem for a while, it does seem like we're all in a bubble of telling each other how great it is, and we need to probably go beyond that and look at even different events and talk to marketeers and marketing agencies and make them aware of the amount of eyeballs that they could get on our RCS campaign. But I think it's something that we will look at in GSMA Forum, and we've spoken about to maybe in the future, just when we've ironed out the first, the first couple of imminent issues, is maybe like some PR surrounding RCS to the UK market, maybe looking at something like a big event that is in the public consciousness to make them aware of how to interact with RCS, and just and because I think the education piece is a real thing, both B2C and B2B, and we need to, and that's something that will need to be overcome if we're going to be successful. So needs more.
To be honest with you, just one PR of the three of you together, given these numbers we just showed here, this 3 to 4 to 5 times increase, the 221 increase in open rates, and that's already big. But it has to be the three of you together. I mean, I'm looking at what, for example, they're doing in Germany, where they launched this website. It's not a big deal, but they launched this website all together to try and educate the brands. There's more to be done, but it's actually a good way to do that. And kind of the question that I ask, not for the audience, but for us in particular, is how we can at MEF help you with that. I mean, how people like Mavenir, Infobip, all of these guys that are in the ecosystem, IMI, etc. We do have a question in the audience too.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations. This is fantastic. It really is absolutely fantastic. There's collaboration between all operators here. So I think this, as we alluded, this is the first step, but it's an important step, and I think we've heard this all along, from David, from IMI, all along, collaboration. So I think congratulations to everybody. I think this is a great idea to do competition as well. Fantastic. I really hope that the aggregators embrace that and something becomes, remarkable from there. So I think that's really, really good. Just a couple of points on the case studies and the KPIs. The MEF is trying to, work on and working on a document now on successful case studies. So please, you guys have all listed different campaigns. It'd be really good if you could contribute towards those. At the moment, we have a lot from Orange and a couple of other operators, but it'd be really good to be able to contribute towards that, because ultimately, we do drive downloads, and that's the one way of making the whole ecosystem aware of some of the successful campaigns we've done, and it's also internal campaigns as well. Yes, the key focus is there. Just on one point around the onboarding, and I think again, Catherine, it's really interesting that you're saying you're trying to align 70 different elements, and it's complex. Are you able to?
Could you come forward a bit? It's quite hard to hear.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Don't get too close to the mic, though.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you able to elaborate around some of the stuff you're doing on the onboarding to try and make things a bit simpler? I mean, like the French are working on an RFI for a joint onboarding solution to try and simplify things. Is that something that is going beyond just alignment of the different collection of information that we use? Or is it too early at this point?
I think it's maybe a bit early in the conversation, Alex, but it's something that we have gone a potential product, roadmap for what we might want to achieve, but we've only had 3 meetings so far, and I think we've, in the operator world, we've achieved quite a lot in 3 meetings. So, but we're definitely, we've realised that these things are being done and successful in other markets, and I think it's obviously
absolutely.
We're not going to just ignore them and look to see what we can achieve, I guess.
I think keeping the dialogue open is really, really important, and some of the feedback that we've had in those meetings and directly, and some feedback I've had just today, just walking around the corridors here, is more than we've had before.
Absolutely.
So if we can keep that dialogue open from all the different players in the industry, then I think there are lots of problems that we can, some of them are actually relatively easy to solve, some are a bit harder. I know the onboarding piece is quite complex, and we're going to try and simplify that. There are too many steps, and an evolution of that could look like something like in France, if that's the right solution. But we're just taking it kind of one step at a time. We've got our 3 big points that Catherine showed earlier, and we're very focused on those at the moment, but it's a good first step, I think.
Congratulations. I'd just like to strongly encourage you, if you are able to dial in, to listen to Orange France talking about their launch and their collaboration, what they're doing with the other operators and with the whole ecosystem. Again, that'll be interesting. It's hearing directly from them, and that's on Friday. Yeah, so at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think we still have a little bit of time, so I do have two things. Jenny has been feeding me a lot of questions. I don't know if they come from online or it's her asking the questions because she can't be here. There is one important one I want to ask you, and then I'm going to ask you to give a takeaway to the audience each. But this question is kind of a sore thumb here in this ecosystem is, have you agreed on charging models, not price, charging models for the UK market?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Have you agreed on charging models, the three of you together, like how to charge for RCS?
We've agreed to look at simplifying them, but obviously we can't discuss pricing, but we've looked to simplify the session lengths, for example, and types of messages and try and align them as much as possible in terms of that, but obviously our pricing is confidential.
I think what the audience is mostly interested in is not the how, it's like the yes or no. I mean, it would be a great thing. You just said
no. I mean, I think to interpret the question in terms of, because the models exist with the crossover of simplicity currently. It's just that there are then additional models, and some of the definitions of sessions vary across the operators. But the notion of a per messaging price, although the prices may well be different, as Catherine said, we don't discuss the actual price, but the model of a per message and a per session price is uniform across the piece. What varies then is the definition of a session.
Okay.
So as part of the working group, we're looking at where there can be crossover and simplification of that, as well as the onboarding process. But I think in reality, although these are areas of friction, are they the true and actual barrier to RCS happening? And I think absolutely we'll address those issues as a community of M&Os together. Yeah. But I don't think that in and of itself is the only barrier to RCS taking off. So I think it needs a much wider participation of everybody. It's not going to be just
one barrier.
Yeah,
it's definitely everything together. But every single one of those things we can, as a whole, make simpler. It's going to help, to move ahead.
And it is a barrier, I think, if there is so much, I guess I worked in on the aggregator side for a while, and I know that there's such a finite amount of time to onboard these campaigns and look at them, and salespeople are very busy. And WhatsApp business messaging have the simplest pricing model that you can imagine, and if RBM has another hurdle like that can be overcome, I think it's definitely something we should really think seriously about trying to align on if we can. And although it might not be the only barrier, it's definitely something that keeps coming up.
All right. Anybody else wants to add anything?
No, I think everything's covered.
Okay, then if that's the case, we're going to close because we're almost finished with our time. Oh, there's one more question. Oh, we have one more question.
Hi there, it's Gavin Thomas here. Just on pricing, why don't you just publish on your website pricing for A2P?
So within M&O's, pricing is something that is very sensitive from a competition perspective. And always has been across the board. So there can be no conversations and agreements between operators on what the prices will be because of those competition reasons. And the prices are published to all of those people individually between the operator and the person that has the contract to send that A2P messaging. So the prices are known to those parties that need to know them to be able to construct them. But the feedback that we get is it's not the pricing, it's actually the variance in the models. So as Catherine said, we're working together to align those models so that there is a simplification, and we're working together to see how we can streamline the onboarding process, albeit within the constraints that onboarding for RCS in most, if not all of the operators, is very manual currently. And that's purely because there isn't the volume of activity that would justify automating it at this point. But absolutely simplification through potentially a single form that would apply to each of the operators, but it'd still be a manual process in the short term.
Thank you.
All right, if there is any more questions, unfortunately we're out of time, and I really want to hear what their key takeaway is. So this time I'm going to start from the end to the front. So I'm going to start with Clark. What would be your key takeaway?
Key takeaway. Probably from a corridor conversation earlier, just that there probably are some barriers that we don't know about. So, please do reach out, come and speak to us, and we'll try our best to address those through collaboration.
Great. Neil?
I'd agree wholeheartedly with that. We want the feedback and we want to work together to address it. And then also Catherine's wonderful idea of the competition, which I take some credit for internally, although I have no right to take any credit for it.
I stole it from France.
Yeah. Plagiarism is the highest form of flattery. But we would encourage everyone to really get behind that opportunity to get a trial out there through that competition that can then be used as a use case to kickstart, not for the first time, but to kickstart RCS once more.
I think mine would be is that we now have 25% coverage and 15 million eyeballs in any RCS campaign that we start, and that's very, very similar to lots of other digital commerce paradigms. And that's something that I think is probably my key takeaway, that it's not just an upgrade to SMS. There's so much more that can be done with RCS in terms of, and we need to look beyond that conversation with when talking to brands. And obviously, I'm very keen to continue collaborating and get these quick wins done, and then look at bigger things that the UK market can do to make RCS a success.
Okay. Well, that's all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Clark, Neil, and Kathy. And we'll see you in the next event. Thanks, everybody.